Another day and another new anime from Summer of Anime 2015. And on today's schedule, we have Gate Episode 1. Now, this series doesn't have as much attention as some other series from Summer of Anime because there's a lot of good titles from Summer. But just because this series doesn't have as much hype as some series doesn't mean this series isn't as good. In fact, I actually really enjoyed this first episode, but there is some minor issues I do want to bring up. But before I do that, let's talk about the premise of the series and to see if this is worth watching if you're interested in wanting to watch this first episode. So, the main plot, from what we could see, is that there's two worlds. There's two different worlds, and one world is kind of like a fantasy medieval world. For instance, a world that you can imagine dragons, elves, knights, cat girls, stuff like that. Just imagine a world like that. And then you have our modern day society. That's the two worlds in this series. And as you could probably already expected, both worlds collide, and you have it to where there's a gate that opens up, which, reference to the title name, a gate opens up and people can go from one world to the other. For instance, people from the other world on the other side of the gate, like the fantasy world, could come to the modern day Japan. People from modern day Japan can go through that gate and go to, that fantasy world. So that's kind of the premise of what we have setting up here. You have it to where Japan is trying to make a foothold into this other land, this other country, other continent, we have no idea, but Japan is trying to make a foothold into this other area, and then you have it to where the people from the fantasy land, we don't really know their objective because they had just attacked out of nowhere at the beginning of this episode, but they most likely have the same exact objective as Japan. So that's kind of the plot, like the main plot of the series, but that doesn't really talk about the character. So we really only got introduced to, I guess, one character. I mean, we get to see in the opening song, there's three characters that were introduced that were all female, by the way. You have like an elf, you have a cat girl, and then you have a sorceress girl that was all introduced in the opening song, and you get to see briefly some parts of them throughout the episode, but you don't really get to find any dialogue from them, so they weren't really introduced yet. So the only character that was really introduced in this first episode was our MC, Itami. I think that's how you say his name. So our main character, Itami, he is the only thing I think I have a minor problem with when it comes to this first episode. The thing is, okay, he's a character that is obsessive over his hobby. His hobby is to collect otaku goods, which there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their hobbies. Look, I fucking collect tons of shit. And I mean, that happens. But as a character standpoint, the way he acts and the way he's in the situation when, like, people with the fantasy creatures start coming through the gate and, attacking everybody, the way he acted, like, his reaction to how he just wanted to make it to where the entire convention didn't get shut down for, like, an entire day or entire week or get canceled, he was more worried about that than the lives of other people, which kind of annoyed me a little bit, so I'm like... So, I mean, I didn't like how obsessive he was over his hobby compared to when it was just human life, running around trying to save their asses. I mean, I just didn't like that one bit. But when it came past that, the way he killed that dude in this episode, like, you have this soldier come in from the other world, like the fantasy world, and about to stab this police officer. Our MC grabs this dude, puts him in a fucking chokehold, and kills the dude with a knife. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, holy God, this dude is brutal. Like, I mean, first impressions of the dude, like I said, he's obsessive over his hobby, and you wouldn't think a character like that was just complaining about, this convention being canceled would do something like that. But then he kills and stabs this dude, and I'm like, what the fuck? So, it's very strange how that happened, but those are my only complaints, personally. I mean, I don't know how this is being adapted, because I do know this is based off of a light novel and a manga. I do know that. I do know Gate is based off that, because I saw it in my local Books A Million when I went there to get manga and stuff, and I was looking at different prices to buy, like Spice Wolf and stuff. I saw Gate's manga on the shelf, and I know there is a light novel, because I've heard about it, and judging by a light novel, I'm going to assume the light novel was first, and so a light novel into a manga into an anime, so I don't know how this was adapted, so to say. I really don't. But it does feel a little bit fast at the beginning part. Because when it came to, like, the time skip to, traveling to the gate, going for the gate, and then, the way the characters were kind of just thrown onto us, and the way, our character got promoted like that, it felt a little bit fast. But it's nothing too big of an issue at this moment. So I have really nothing to complain about. But the only thing, like I said, is just the MC. But it has an average start. Like, it's nothing... I guess you could say, mind-blowing. Like, it reminds me a lot of Outbreak Company. If you've ever seen that anime series Outbreak Company, like, it's not exactly similar to Outbreak Company, because as you remember, the MC in Outbreak Company came to the other world just to spread otaku culture. That's kind of what he was doing. Well, that's not what our MC is doing from what I could see. He's out in the middle of battlefield, bringing in fucking tanks and AK-47s, about to just kill people. So, I mean, that's where the plot is going. But it does remind me a lot of Outbreak Company. Like, if you remember that anime that came out last year, Outbreak Company, you might like this. I mean, you might. You just, check this first episode out. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's an average start to me. I will continue reviewing it. I'll give it a 3-episode rule to see if I want to stick with it or not. I just got to see where the plot is going to go, because at this moment, I am blind when it comes to this anime series, because, like I said, I haven't looked at the majority of the descriptions of any of these anime coming out for summer 2015. Going in blind. So tell me your thoughts. I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.